Hello, my name is Ashley, and today we will be discussing art supplies, specifically drawing supplies. Let's get started. Today we're going to talk about 4 different types of supplies. We're going to talk about paper, blending tools, pencils, and erasers. Okay, so we're going to start off with paper. If you want to create a good piece of art, you need to have the proper paper in order to create. There's nothing more frustrating than going to the store and coming back with a new bunch of paper or a sketchbook and starting into your project and realizing that you bought the wrong thing. Okay, so today we're going to discuss how to pick the right thing and how to tell if you've got the right thing for what project you're trying to do. First things first, you need to take a look at the tooth on your paper. That is the most important part in picking the proper paper, is making sure you have the proper tooth. A tooth refers to the way that paper is processed. So if a paper is processed in more of a rough fashion, it's going to have a tooth. A paper that is smooth is not going to have a tooth. For example, your printer paper, not going to have a tooth. Drawing or charcoal paper, however, or watercolor paper, it's going to have a pretty heavy tooth to it. So here I have a few items to look at, and it's not going to be super easy to see some of them. So we're going to talk a little bit about them, and we'll do a little bit of texture drawing to kind of show you what I'm talking about. So the first is this sketchbook. It has absolutely no tooth in it. You can see that it's very smooth. I use this for pen. A lot of times in my sketchbooks, I only draw with pen. So I wanted to make sure I had a sketchbook with smooth lines, because pen, you don't want very much of a tooth when you're dealing with pen. The next kind of paper I have is just a basic drawing paper. This would be really good for like pencil. If I pull out a pencil, it's going to have a really nice catch. It's not going to be too chunky, too bad. Basically what it's going to do is just catch just enough of it to make it so that I can smooth it out. I want very many lines and things like that. That's really good for pencil because it kind of takes care of a lot of the issues you might have with having too much tooth when you're doing pencil. On the other hand, if I were to do charcoal, I want to make sure I have a nice tooth or it's not going to pick up enough. With charcoal, we tend to want more of a tooth, so we're going to go with something more like this Canson paper, which I'm just going to pick a corner here. But it's going to pick up that tooth a lot more, which is going to help the charcoal lay down better. Just to recap, we want to have a nice tooth for things like charcoal. For pencil, you want a mild tooth. For pen, you're going to want absolutely no tooth at all. If you follow those principles as you look for art supplies and think about what medium you're using to do your final project, that's going to help you a lot. Moving on from there is we have a lot of different kinds of pencils that we're going to talk about. Okay, so first things first, we talked a little bit about these before, graphite pencils. I'd buy these at like a Michael's or a craft store where they sell them by the pencil. What you want to make sure you have, especially with graphite, you're not going to use graphite, you won't use it as quickly because it's a harder medium. But pencils start with, they go into H actually. If you're buying drafting pencils, you're going to have like 12H, 11H, 10H, all the way down to H. H would be the softest of those pencils, 12 being the hardest. When you're drawing, not drafting, you want to stay in the B side of the pencil. So it goes 12H all the way to like 12B. And what you want to do is you want to be just the B side. B side is softer, it's better for drawing. Drafters have to keep their lines really light, which is why they like to have the really light colors, or really light shades, I should say. As we're going through them, just like with the H's, it goes darkest or lightest to darkest with the B's. So we're going to start with 2B's. These are 2B's, these are 4B's, and these are 6B's. And as you can see, these are all different brands. I spent about $1 a pencil, and that usually tells me that it's a pretty good brand, so I don't worry too much about anything outside of that. These are Staedtlers, got some Faber-Castells, and then these are Pentalics, which might have been a gift from my mother 100 years ago. Anyway, it's kind of where I stay. They get gradually darker, like I said before. Let me pull out a piece of paper, and we'll do our best to demonstrate. So the first shade we have here is a 2B, so I'll go ahead and demonstrate just so you know. So it's going to be kind of light. You can see I'm applying some pressure there. The 4B will get darker. Now when I am buying them, I only buy a 2B, 4B, and a 6B in any medium pretty much. If I were to do a pencil, even if I did a whole picture like I typically do with my charcoals, but you can see they get gradually darker as you go. If I went ahead to a 7B2, it would be darker. It's not going to be much darker because it's just one jump. I like at least a 2 jump in between my pencils. Now my favorite medium is charcoal. I have a lot of charcoal pencils. You can't see in the camera, but I have a lot. And these also, they're going to run you about $1 a pencil probably. These are Generals. I was working with a student another day, and we were talking about what brand to buy for charcoal, and I realized I only buy Generals because I like them a lot and they work really well. So I only buy the Generals brand. It doesn't mean there's not other good ones, but these guys work really great. And their pencils usually are not broken when I get them, which is super important with charcoal. With any pencil, you do not want to drop these. When you drop them, it breaks the lead inside, and that basically destroys the entire pencil. So here's just 2B that I'm putting on there. You can see how much darker that is compared to the 2B pencil. You get much better values, I feel like, with the charcoal. That doesn't mean, there's a lot of people who can make some really beautiful artwork with pencils. I've done really beautiful artwork with graphite pencil, but I just prefer the charcoal. I think it's fun. Here would be a 4B. Again, darker. And then a 6B. And especially if I'm doing a picture with pencil, there's a chance that I might wish I had something darker. I've never wished that I had anything darker than a 6B with charcoal. But I know they go like way high, but at a certain point you just can't really get much darker. So there we go. So there's 2B, 4B, and 6B. With those, you can see kind of there's a slight difference in how much medium is even put on because charcoal's a lot softer. There are also white charcoal pencils too, before I forget to mention those. They're white. You use them for highlights. Typically, if you're doing something like this Canson paper that's as a background, it'll show up really well as a highlight. So we've covered pencils. Ooh, let's do a little bit with colored pencil actually. I'm going to show you. There's some kinds of colored pencils that I don't recommend using for art. One of those would be Color Erase. These are really great pencils if I'm sketching and I need to draw an outline over another picture or something. But nowadays, I don't use them too much. Sometimes I use them when I'm doing perspective. You can buy them in stores by the pencil. They do erase, which is really nice. But I don't feel like they get as sharp as like a regular pencil, and they're always going to leave some kind of stain on the page. So I prefer not to use them to draw out just every once in a while when I'm character sketching or something and I need an underdrawing. So that's one type of colored pencil. Then you're going to have kind of the cheap colored pencils, which I have some right here. These are some kind of, this is a Crayola. The rest of them are, I don't even know, Maped, I don't know. I bought them at the grocery store for the purpose of this demonstration. So we're going to try to demonstrate a little bit. So we're going to try with red because red typically will show up fairly decently. I don't want to smear all my charcoal. So you can see this red. If I wanted to create a darker red color, I can try to kind of go over it. What makes these less desirable for artists is that they don't have a soft core. When they have a soft core, a colored pencil will put down the color better, will blend better. You can mix the colors almost when you have a really nice soft core. So these are kind of a little cheaper. You can see all the specs in between them and stuff like that. These ones, which are the kind that I typically use, are called Prismacolor. They are a soft core pencil, which is what you want to look for. Again, soft core is just way better than like a harder or medium core. You can buy them. There are cheaper ones. These are about $1 a pencil, sometimes more. I go through a lot of them. So bonus tip, when you are sharpening pencils, this is a Staedtler like 2-hole pencil sharpener. Really great. Spend some money on a good pencil sharpener if you're going to do this, because I have had pencil sharpeners, like the crappy ones, that will just eat your pencils. This bad boy is awesome. I've had him Actually, I think I lost one after college, so I bought a new one. I don't know, this could be my college one. It's pretty beat up. It could be my college one. Anyway, point is, it's lasted a long time. And for charcoal, I never use one of these kind. I always use one of these nice metal ones. They are super nice. Like, seriously, they do some really great stuff. And they sharpen really well. So, talking about erasers for just a second. There are several kinds of erasers you're going to want. One is a kneaded eraser. This is just a general basic kneaded eraser. Comes like this. You'll pull it out and it's actually kneaded. So what a kneaded eraser does, once we get it they do kind of dry out a little bit. So you kind of work with them to make them work. But they are actually really good. You'll notice I have all these marks, all these little bits of eraser from when I erased earlier. Now if I were to like just sweep my hand through it, you could see I'm getting like a huge swath of charcoal or pencil. You can ruin a drawing very quickly by doing that. So what this does is it'll actually erase, but it actually takes what it erases onto the actual eraser itself. You can kind of see a little bit of black there. So instead of like breaking the eraser apart, which is what like polymer and gummy erasers do, actually takes it in there and then you just kind of mold it and knead it until it goes back to being normal. Then after that, we have what would be called like gummy erasers. This is a Prismacolor Magic Rub. They're good. I don't like the gummy erasers. I feel like there's a huge amount of flakies that end up coming off. I've got like a million of these from when I bought art packs and stuff over the years, and I just don't use them very much because I don't like them. Some people swear by them. I don't like them very much, but you might like them. So there's gummy erasers like that. They usually are tan. Sometimes they're that big square brick that you get in your art supply kit. Those would also be them. Like I said, I've got like a bunch of them. What I like is high polymer, look like this, white erasers. They are plastic, so high polymer plastic white eraser. I feel like they work the best. They don't have as much of the flakies that happen. They do have some. Any eraser that's not needed is going to have a lot of those. But they work really well. They're very sharp. And they tend to get rid of stuff on the first go by. So I really like them a lot. That's the kind of erasers I buy. These are ends. You can buy like big square ones. I like buying these though, because then they can just fit on my pencil and I can just put my pencil with an erase. So those are my favorite erasers. Lastly, we're going to talk for just a moment about blenders or tortillions. I guess there's lots of kinds of blenders. So one thing that happens as you are creating anything with pencil, charcoal, whatever, if I'm trying to create something that's nice and smooth as I use it, I can smooth it out, but I'm going to end up with that black finger, especially if I'm doing like charcoal. It's just going to end up really black. There are other options. I like to use my fingers just as much as I use these other options, but I'm going to show you some of them. So the first one is the tortillions. They are awesome. They're basically just big rolls of paper. I used to make them myself when I was in high school. But what they do is they're like newsprint, kind of, that's just been rolled up. So I like to take them and just kind of, and what tortillions do is they help you blend. Like I said, you can also use them if you just need to add a little bit of stuff, because you'll notice there's no, like, they tend to pick it up and then they kind of just act like charcoal. So you've got all these different sizes, 7/16, and you can just switch them. These are really good for like little details. When I do eyes, I like to go into the corners with these because they're so tiny. So they're really nice. The other option you have for blending is called a chamois. So this used to be white. You can actually go to the washing section. They're called chamois, and you use them to like dry a car after you wash it. You dry it and then you wring it out, and you dry it and you wring it out. Anyway, they're basically a piece of leather. They look like this when you get them. This one was new once upon a time ago. This one's like super old, college. This one I just bought recently, but I've been using it. But they'll be like white. They're basically a piece of leather, some kind of tanned animal hide. And what you do is you just take it, and there's a couple things you could do. You can take it and actually pick up and kind of erase stuff. When they get dark enough, you can actually add value to them. I will often go over the background of my pictures with a chamois to just kind of clean it up or add stuff to it. But they can also be used to do a nice blending. But again, it will lighten it, so you might end up doing it multiple times if you do that route. But they're a very good way to get a very nice blend between colors, shapes, and between planes and things like that. So that is all I have for you today. If you missed something, be sure to rewind the video and watch it as many times as you need to. And if you enjoyed this video on drawing supplies, join me in a live studio class. I'll see you then.